So, over the weekend, Resident Evil Village had a special half-hour demo that could only be played right then, during that time, for players with PlayStation access. Naturally, a lot of people have complained that this is a rather frustrating way to distribute a demo, but I think it's kind of brilliant, especially for a game like Resident Evil Village, which is trying to push the game's occasional flirtations with open-world horror to new heights. Resident Evil games typically fall into one of two camps. In some, you're in a confined space, like a house, or a train, or a slightly bigger house, facing traps and monsters in tight, small environments that you can't escape. Alternatively, in other games, you're in a wider, larger area that's a bit less restrictive, even if you still can't actually get free from harm's way for very long. A lot of people have noticed the similarities, both in gameplay and general aesthetic, between Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 4, and for good reason. After the success of the incredibly claustrophobic Resident Evil VII, aka Resident Evil Biohazard, the series is now jumping back to a more open-world design, paralleling the jump from the original Resident Evil to Resident Evil 2. The developers have talked about how, this time, they're really trying to give the player as much freedom and control as possible. According to director Morimasa Sato, "We thought a lot about how to create a game where you could figure out your own solutions to problems you face. This is something we decided to do a lot more with this game, so you have a lot more freedom than in Resident Evil 7. We want players to experiment, to figure out things that work for them. We want everyone to think of Resident Evil Village as a horror movie that you can play." To aid this, Village comes with a complex upgrade system, a cooking system, and, mercifully, plenty of inventory space. It has led me to wonder, though, how giving the player more freedom and control will affect the tense atmosphere that the team are trying to bring across from Biohazard. After all, the main selling point of Biohazard is a complete lack of freedom. You're trapped in a spooky house with a bunch of scary people. You've got to solve obtuse puzzles, and your only glimmer of hope is that maybe you'll make it out of there alive. You know, cheerful stuff like that. So while moving to a larger, wider, more open experience for the follow-up is not without precedent, it does raise the question of how the developers will maintain that very well-crafted tension once control of the game's pacing is ceded to the player. I've not been concerned, necessarily, merely curious. So the special half-hour demo kicked off. It was like the opening of the gates at the world's most terrifying Disneyland. Everyone participating dashed off in different directions, eager to experience every nightmare that was on offer. The Resident Evil Reddit has been fascinating over the weekend. Because the demo was so short, and because nobody can go back to verify things, there have been all kinds of weird and wonderful reports about what people did and saw. Some people, most people, I'd say, ploughed their way through the story content that's available in the demo. And while I won't get into spoilers, there are a lot of twists and turns, even in that relatively short snippet of the full game. The reports that interested me more, though, came from players who'd abandoned the critical path in favour of wandering around, soaking up the atmosphere and discovering what secrets were hidden throughout the village. Some players found the shotgun, some didn't. Some players got trapped in the long grass and eaten by velociraptor. Wait, no, I'm thinking of Jurassic Park. Oh, it's the same difference. My favourite comment comes from Patman0825, who said, "I was really impressed with it. I ran out of handgun ammo and then cowered in the church. Had a blast. With such a small tease, there's no wrong way to play, and players have been pointing out little things that they saw that others might have missed out on. This is fun." The half-hour restricted access turns a fairly traditional demo into a game of playground rumours. Everyone has a story to tell, none of it is verifiable just yet. There's a sense of mystery that we don't often get in the internet era. First and foremost, though, all of these different reports make it clear that the open-world design of the demo does not break the tension and the fear. Although these reports are admittedly coming from fans who are dedicated enough to be posting on the Resident Evil Reddit, so perhaps they saw what they wanted to see. It makes sense, though. While typically giving players more control is a big no-no in the horror game handbook, when done right, player choice can add even greater tension. With more open-ended puzzles, a complex upgrade system, and freedom to explore the game as you see fit, it's easier to get in over your head. Every decision is fraught with danger. Or at least it could be. We've seen such a small part of this game that it's probably too soon to tell for certain, but things look promising nonetheless. Admittedly, I might find open-world games more stressful than most people. I have a pathological aversion to the critical path. The game says go left, I go right. 9 times out of 10, I find myself way over my head as I get lost in an area that I'm not supposed to see yet. There is nothing scarier in all of gaming than having an inventory laden with cool new trinkets as you try and make your way to safety only to run into a big, intimidating monster that swats you aside like you're nothing. With Resident Evil VII, and most linear horror games for that matter, if you make a mistake and die, it's no big deal. You can just reload a save and try again. Yes, it's scary, but once you've died a single time, that tension dissipates. The worst thing imaginable has already happened. Then it's just a matter of replaying a bit of the game, trying to do a little better than last time. In an open-world Resident Evil game, the same scenario doesn't have to play out the same way twice. The player doesn't need to try the same strategy twice. And by choosing a different path, they choose the unknown. The horror remains fresh. Everything is in flux. Now, of course, as I say, a 30-minute demo isn't long enough to give us a full sense of how the game's open world will actually work in practice. We can't yet know how the upgrade system will factor in, whether cooking will be anything more than a distraction, or whether a series of open-ended puzzles will ultimately feel easier than having to follow a tightly scripted path and intuit what the game wants you to do. I am, though, optimistic. If the comments that I've read have proven anything, it's that there are an incalculable number of different ways to approach just one 30-minute chunk of Resident Evil Village. Hopefully the full game will be filled with little mysteries that each player can solve for themselves. So if in playing Resident Evil Village you get trapped somewhere awkward, well, you have no one to blame but yourself. But that's just my opinion. What do you think of Village and its open world? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to do a YouTube and like and subscribe and tell a friend and all that jazz. You know the drill. Thank you for watching.